So welcome everyone. My name is Tor Legend. Thank you so much for joining us in our ongoing BTP series brought to you by MyGo Consulting. Today's session, SAP UI5 in action. Easily build and extend Fiori apps for the future, creating the intelligent enterprise. In this webinar, my colleague Oliver Graf, Director of Product Management, SAP UI Technologies, will demonstrate SAP Fiori user experience evolution and how it supports an efficient development experience. You'll find out how the latest innovations in SAP UI5 and understand the direction of SAP strategic UI technology. So you'll be able to understand how SAP UI5 ensures a consistent user experience, how it extends SAP apps easily using drag and drop WYSIWYG tools, and finally develop custom apps in SAP Build with some modern tools. Following Oliver's session, my colleague, Trinath Paravalli, BTP COE Practice Lead, from MyGo Consulting, will cover building custom Fiori apps with SAP UI5. In this session, he'll guide you through a process of designing, building, and deploying a fully tailored Fiori application using SAP UI5 that meets your unique business requirements. Before we get started, some housekeeping points. As usual, I have 5 ebooks to give away. This is hot off the presses, a new ebook that's just been released by SAP Press, SAP UI5, the comprehensive guide ebook. So I have 5 of these to give away to the first 5 people to ask an audio question. So I will ask you guys to unmute your line and ask your question. Also, at the end of the session, if you guys want to take a quick scan of this QR code, I have 10 ebooks to give away testing SAP UI5 applications. So this will be given to the first 10 people that complete our survey. Again, this survey is really for us to get a better gauge as to what kind of, how we can improve our offerings in terms of our webinars, and your feedback is extremely important to us. And one last thing that I'd like to mention to you guys, for those who are in the Atlanta area, I just want to let you guys know that we have an on-site event planned, a BTP workshop in Atlanta at the SAP office, the Buckhead office, on July the 10th. So if you guys are available and are able to come and meet the SAP topic experts, as well as the MyGo and Tricentis. So this is in collaboration with MyGo and Tricentis. So you'll have the opportunity to participate in 2 deep dive hands-on workshops during the event. One is the Unlocking Advanced BTP Gen AI Capabilities, and the second one is End-to-End Integration Business Use Cases. We did a very similar one in Chicago a couple of months ago. It was very successful. We hope to see you in Atlanta on July the 10th. And with that, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Mauricio Grossi, Chief Sales Officer at MyGo, to kick us off.
Awesome.
Mauricio?
Yeah, thanks, Toros, and thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. It's definitely an exciting topic. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is not just UI5, but for me, it's user experience as a whole. It's a topic, as a salesperson, when it comes up, it's very often not the client's top focus in their mind. They're usually worried about how do we just implement this giant behemoth of a solution called SAP or integrate it to all these other ERPs. But I'll tell you, it's something that when you do get focus and attention put on it, you can make a world of difference, not just for your users, but overall productivity and efficiency of your organizations. So my task here is simple. I get to do the overview of MyGo so you guys have a better understanding of who's talking today, and then we'll hand it over to our MyGo and SAP experts to give you guys the information that you came here for. But so in general, MyGo, we're a global SAP partner services company. So we're selling licenses as well as helping customers implement them all across the world. We have locations in US, India, Mexico, Canada, and Germany, and we're expanding further into Latin America and into Asia Pac regions so we can better support our customers with boots on the ground. You can see all of our key stats in terms of how big we are and how many customers we've been working with. But we're an SAP Gold partner, we're a Tricentis reseller, we're a Zebra reseller, and BTP expert partner. So we have a few different flavors of MyGo that we can help our customers out with. Next slide, please. Here's our centers of excellence. So here's where you get to see where we get to drill down and spend most of our time on. So the wheel on the right is our skill set internally in MyGo. So that spans the depth and breadth of SAP skills. But the centers of excellence, like I said, is where we spend most of our energy, and that's why we built these to better support our customers. So we have supply chain, which is going to be mostly warehouse and transportation. Business transformation is a newer practice for us, but it's been yielding good results and mostly around Signavio. BTP, like I said, is one of our biggest centers of excellence where we have Trinath here. He'll be telling some stories about that later. And then S4, of course, everybody's getting into the rise and grow game. So Migo's no different in their entire test engineering space, mostly focusing around Tricentis. From an industry's perspective, because we do so much supply chain and we are involved in BTP, we're touching a lot of different customers in a lot of different areas. So we're pretty agnostic when it comes to industry perspective, but you can see we have a pretty good consistency around life sciences, manufacturing, and CPG. So for customers in any of these spaces, definitely happy to answer some more of the nuanced questions you might have. And then here we just have a quick BTP fact sheet, just again to give you a better understanding of the types of projects and the number of projects we've been working on in the past few years. So for us, BTP is not just UI5, it's also data and analytics and automation. But again, I think that's some of the exciting parts that we'll talk to here is that when you get a better handle on your UI5, you can kind of embed some of this automation in there and make again, this is where you get a lot of these efficiency gains for your users. So very excited to pass it over to the folks so we can get started on some of this content. We have some links here that we can share if you guys are looking for more learning. Definitely check those out. They're great resources. The Discovery Center, especially, is where we point customers to when they're looking to get their head around BTP. And you got a ton of great information and missions and stuff on there. Don't want to spend too much time. And yeah, that's it. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Mr. Oliver Graff. He's from the product team at SAP, and even better than being just a collared suit like myself, he's there with the development team. So kind of like going to the bakery early in the morning and being able to get the loaves fresh off the rack. We get to get the straight dope straight from Oliver. So to you, Oliver, thank you, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Maurizio. Let me just set up here. So I assume you can hear me and can see my slide?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes, great. Thanks for having me. My name is Oliver. I'm a product manager in the BTP organization, so working with the UI5 teams. And my session is on building and extending Fiori apps. I mean, Maurizio also already mentioned the importance of user experience, of the Fiori journey of SAP. And of course, often it's not just using the standard of SAP out of the box, but extending Fiori applications. And that is sometimes there's a challenge. It's not straightforward. And if the requirements are very far apart from the standard applications, you might go for building custom application. So I want to talk about this, want to put the UI5 UI technology into a context of user experience, but also into a context of application development and talk about development tooling. Okay, so we're talking about user experience for a while at SAP. And if you know classical SAP transactions, SAPUI transaction, which are super complex, have all the functionality in one transaction, and you completely lose your way. It's not fun working with these applications. So with Fiori, introduced more than 10 years ago, we took that apart and built smaller role-based applications you'll probably have seen by now. So that is one aspect, but also the expectations changed, as you can get an impression here from this picture. So how do your business users, what do they expect from a business application? And I think you can nowadays really use SAP Business Solutions on these devices as shown in these pictures here. I'm not so sure if the two guys at the top right, if they really use a profit center accounting application or them. I'm not so sure, but in general, it could very well be that those people here use SAP applications on their devices, and they have a very different experience than the classical transactions, for example. And they work on different devices, and they have a consistent experience. So it's not that each and every application, each and every solution, you would again need to learn how it works, but they have a consistent experience. And this is a journey. It's not done yet. We're doing this for, I mentioned it, for more than 10 years. Started very simple with the Fiori user experience with self-service approval applications. Then it started turning the new face of the S/4HANA product, adding also native mobile experience, and really covering the full breadth of applications in, for example, S/4HANA and other solutions at SAP. So this is a journey, this is ongoing, and there's new things coming to Fiori experience. This is a very broad term. Like if you look at it from a design perspective, there's also new things coming in from design perspective. For example, the Horizon theme was one of the bigger news lately here, coming to the Fiori experience with a more modern and fresh look. And there will be more in the future. And you see some aspects here on the right here. For example, it says consistency. This is what I mentioned. So having a consistent experience, if your scenario, your business scenario goes from one application to another application, if the scenario goes from one SAP solution to another, which maybe was acquired by SAP or is some third-party solution. So you don't want to have a break in the experience if you move from one place in the application to another one. Intelligence, of course, is a topic, and we'll mention AI, Gen AI, and Joule, of course, as this needs to be mentioned in any presentation nowadays, and integration is a topic with SAP in many cases. The consistency is something I want to stress. So if you want to bring a consistent experience, consistent capabilities, consistent look and feel, for example, to these applications, how you do this? You'll do this by using the same UI technology, of course, right? If you have the same UI technology, it looks the same. It's very stupid and simple. So this is why we're talking about SAP UI5. SAP UI5 is SAP's standard UI framework. So within SAP, in our internal guidelines, this is given as the standard UI framework, UI technology when building new applications or when, for example, rebuilding parts of applications. So it's the standard UI framework of choice. So there's no doubt to it. And if there's just one thing you take from this presentation is that betting on UI5 is the right choice. UI5 has a growing adoption within SAP solutions, also with partners and customers, obviously, but also within SAP, in SAP solutions. And there's no doubt that SAP UI5 is the UI framework going forward with SAP. I highlighted here some of the capabilities and benefits of SAP UI5, the consistent user experience. I mentioned that. So, for example, it's not just the SAP solutions, but even beyond. We have an open source version called Open UI5. So even outside of an SAP context, you can use the capabilities of SAP UI5. Use it anywhere. I think I already mentioned running on different devices, on desktop, tablet, phone size, for example, in different browsers and different platforms, operating systems. And if you're developing front end, if you're developing web applications with JavaScript, for example, you know that this is not something which is easy to do. So in many other languages or in JavaScript, you might need to cater for differences in browsers and operating system and so on. All of this UI5 is taking care of. Also, the different screen sizes. So the idea is with UI5, you implement the application once and it runs on large screens and it rearranges the screen and changes, for example, list and detail screen, and changes that if you use it on a small device, for example, on a mobile device. So all of this built into the UI5 technology. Enterprise UI elements, we have hundreds of enterprise UI elements which we have developed in the course of the recent years for the different requirements. We have integration cards you see, for example, on Launchpad pages. We are going to talk about web components and why they are important to cover other technology stacks. So lots of enterprise elements, not just simple ones like an input field, but really complex tables, hierarchies, and things you would need in an SAP context. Flexible tools, we are going to talk about the tooling to develop applications, to extend applications, test, deployment, translation. And I want to highlight, obviously, the SAP Build product, and within that context, the SAP Build code product. Innovations, I mean, this says, maybe it's obvious, but I still think in some cases it's not so obvious. So having a clear separation between UI technology, UI framework, and the business application is not given. Remember the classical GUI transaction there, it was not the case. So if we have a clear separation, we can innovate independently. For example, we can put new innovations into the UI technology in one place, and it's available in all applications, in all solutions using UI5. One of these examples was the New Horizon theme. We implemented this in UI5, and it was available in all applications, and not that every application had to change something to be able to show the Horizon theme. And extensibility options. Extensibility is a very important scenario, and we're going to talk about the challenges here and how SAP UI5 can help. So these are benefits, reasons why SAP UI5 is the standard framework of choice. And again, it's not just a marketing message I'm giving out to you, but this is the status within SAP. If applications are being built, this is the status quo. Then if you're building, maybe let me just quickly go back here. So if you're building applications, one application, you use UI5 and you're good. If you're building 2 applications, 3 applications, 5, 10 applications, you might copy some code and do the same coding because you need the same logic over and over again. And if you're developing more applications, you wonder, can't you do this more efficient in a way? If we at SAP, we develop hundreds or even thousands of Fiori applications, we had to come up with a way to do this in an efficient way. And efficient simply means reusing parts, right? That's basically the idea why SAP was founded more than 50 years ago. It was the idea of standard software for business. And this idea also holds in many smaller areas, also for building UIs of applications. So if we have a standard which is being reused and not the same coding, copied, and you need to maintain it again and again, and you need to fix bugs in many different coding. If you reuse coding, it's better, it's more efficient. It's very stupid, simple idea. So if you develop many Fiori applications, you want to have some kind of framework that helps you do this in an efficient way. And this framework is what we call SAP Fiori Elements. So it's a way to build SAP UI5 applications, but in an efficient way. So not with lots of coding, freestyle UI5 coding, more and more coding in your responsibility, which you need to maintain and debug and so on, but having certain parts in a central framework owned by SAP, and you can reuse that. Any applications reuse that. And this is the way we suggest also to, for example, applications in S/4HANA, that this is the way forward because it's most efficient. Because what you get out of the box is things I highlighted here. So the search bar, a list of objects, sorting of the list, filtering, actions on this, export to Excel, personalization, and the navigation to a detail screen and a navigation back, and reading data and paging through data and reloading the next set of data from the database. And all these things you would need to implement again and again and again. And you see some of the enterprise qualities in the bottom left here, which you would probably want in every application again and again. So all these things are part of the Fiori Elements templates. In this case, it's a list report list report object page template here, which gives you this look. And there's, I think, 4 other templates here for different screens. So this is what we recommend, not only for partners and customers when they're building their custom applications, but also within SAP, because this is obviously fully following the Fiori design guidelines, and it's giving you most functionality out of the box. So 2 approaches. You have the freestyle UI5 approach, where you have your own UI5 coding with JavaScript, for example, and you can go your own way. And if your customer asks for a weird design, which is completely outside the Fiori guidelines, you can implement that. Or you have the option Fiori Elements. Then you're following the Fiori design guidelines, you're following templates such as this list report object page here. You get most of the logic or you reuse most of the logic from SAP, and you just add your specific logic. For example, which business objects should be listed here? And are they display only, or can you create new objects and things like that? So 2 options, freestyle UI5 or Fiori Elements. But often this was not enough, because there's always a certain requirement for a bit of custom logic. So you need maybe a custom button here in the toolbar here for the table. Maybe you need some special custom button with some logic, maybe a dialog, while you still want to have the overall logic, but a bit of custom logic. Or the other way around, you develop your custom UI5, your freestyle UI5 application, but still don't want to develop like a list, like a filter bar and list again and again. So what we came up with is a mixture of both models, so that you don't have to decide either or. So you see the 2 extremes here on the left and right. On the right, you see the freestyle UI5. You have full control. You're using SAP UI5 controls. You're using JavaScript, and you have completely freedom on how the application should look like and how it should behave. This has most flexibility, obviously. On the other end of the spectrum is the Fiori Elements, which has these full page floor plans, as I showed you. And there's 5 floor plans at the moment, some variations for different SAP solutions, but it's a very restricted set of full page floor plans. You get the Fiori design, you get all the behavior. And so this is developing applications with this is most efficient. But then the interesting part here now is that we have something where you can mix both approaches. This is what we call the flexible programming model. So you can mix the freestyle UI5 and the Fiori Elements. So for example, you can have your overall page using freestyle UI5 because this is your requirement for some reason. And on the page, you can use what we call building blocks. The old name for this was smart controls. So for example, a filter bar and a table, which are driven by the metadata annotations used in Fiori Elements. Or you use Fiori Elements and can add some freestyle code. So with the flexible programming model, you can approach it from both ends. You can start on the left and go towards right, or start on the right and go towards left. And the idea here, it says at the bottom here, this approach lets you use as much Fiori Elements as possible, because that means as much efficiency, as much reuse as possible, and as much freestyle UI5 as needed for your specific requirements, custom logic, which needs to be implemented. And if you want to learn about this, let me just quickly show you here the flexible programming model. So you'll find what they call, it's a bit of a difficult name, flexible, or the full name is SAP Fiori Elements Flexible Programming Model Explorer. And this gives you the options here. So it explains also this continuum, for example, and gives you information. For example, let's say here, let me make this a font size a bit bigger so you can see. For example, the Fiori elements, the full page dialogues have extension points where you can add your custom column, custom dialogue, custom action, and so on. And if you do that, you might also want to add controller extensions, so some behavior once you click on your custom button, and you can add that. Or you can use the building blocks. So if you approach it from the other end, you build a freestyle UI5 application, but then have, let's say, the requirement to have a filter bar and a table of objects. And these you don't want to implement fully on your own with all the paging, export to Excel and logic, but you can reuse these building blocks which have the Fiori elements logic built in. So you can mix those two approaches here from both ends. And I think this is a very clever approach. I've been in this space of developing applications and UI technologies for a while, for example, also in CRM with the web client UI many years ago and so on. And I have the feeling it always, a model like this is always successful if you offer, I mean, you need to offer both, right? You need to offer full flexibility for those applications which, for whatever reasons, require that. You need to offer full efficiency for the standard 80% use case. But then the magic is if you want to have both. You don't want to give up all the benefits from reusing this, but still want to have the flexibility. So having a clever way to mix both approaches is the, I don't know, winning recipe, I think. And with the flexible programming model, we have that. Okay, Toros, we have a first poll question. Could you launch that? The question is which UI technologies you deal with. Can you let me know which UI technologies you're using? You see the Freestyle UI5 and the Fiori elements I mentioned, and a couple of others. Can you let me know which UI technologies you deal with? Just flag those you're in contact with, you deal with. And then Toros, I'll assume you'll finish the poll once done and we can see the results.
So it seems like the chat seems to be disabled. So if you have questions, you can type your questions in the Q&A. I believe the Q&A portion is available. So if you wanted to type your questions in the Q&A, please do so.
And the chat, the poll.
Yeah, we've have 45 people, so yeah. Can you see the results?
I cannot see the results.
Okay. There we go.
Ah, now I can. Okay. So a strong SAP GUI, of course. This is what we can expect in an SAP context. We see a lot freestyle UI5, and Fiori elements. So you see, well, it's not half-half, but they are fairly close. And then with the Fiori, with the flexible programming model, you can actually mix those two approaches as mentioned. And we have a lot of web components here. This is interesting to see. So I'm going to talk about that as well. And also Angular, React, and others. Okay, this is very interesting. So we'll see how we can cover also those technologies towards a consistent Fiori experience. Very good. Thank you, Thomas.
Sure.
So let's zoom out a bit. If we have a look at the whole SAP Business Suite. So I'm not going into all the different pieces here. You might have seen this before based on business technology platform. What I want to visualize here is the whole spectrum of the SAP Business Suite, all the solutions here. And of course, they are based on a design system, which is the Fiori design system here. And for example, the BTP guidance framework. And I can quickly show you this, the BTP guidance framework here. I mean, you might ask, why is he showing us a boring documentation page? But I think what is really a step forward with this, you can see here, I hope it's large enough, the font here. You can see the different areas covered. For example, development, for example, extensibility. We're going to talk about this, administration, and so on. It is documentation and guidelines, but I think this is also guidance we have within SAP, right? So that we're not coming up with yet another technology stack, yet another tool, and so on. And then we'll need to figure out how we can bring this together in the years after that. But we have a very strong guidance also within SAP to stick to these technologies. For example, the cloud application programming model, for example, the SAP UI5, for example, going towards the BTP as the technology platform. So there's a number of topics covered here. I think it contains valuable information, not only for UI, but for many other topics. And the interesting part is we're using this also within SAP. And what I see in SAP is that we have some kind of, I'm not sure what the right word is, consolidation or moving towards single technologies, single tools, single stacks, and so on, and not like very different ones. And you would then need to deal with this and so on. So I think it's worth having a look. Enterprise qualities like security, accessibility is what is relevant for all these applications. Now there's many applications, and there's many applications like S4HANA built with SAP UI5. Okay, we understand that now. But there's also other applications, for example, written in Angular or React, for example. And from the poll, we can see that you're also dealing with them. So maybe this is a solution acquired by SAP, or for some reason it's necessary that they are built with Angular or React. So what do we do about with this? So we have a programming model. Of course, you know the SAP UI5 programming model. And then there's UI elements, so the individual checkbox, an input field, a table, the different UI elements, which are the UI5 controls or the respective components in the other technologies. Okay, so far, these are very different worlds, right? On the right and on the left. And then we came up with the web components. And the web component, for those of you who don't know yet, a web component is a standard. It's not SAP related. It's a web standard to actually define, let's say, custom HTML tags. So an HTML tag, which shows up in a browser as some kind of visual element, and being able to define your own HTML tag with some implementation. This is the web components standard. So what we did with the SAP web components, or the open source version we call UI5 web components, what you do with it is you implement UI elements with the capabilities you know from the SAP UI5 controls. So the Fiori design and accessibility and security and the functionality, all things, the qualities you already know from SAP UI5, we put into the UI elements implemented as web components, and then we can use them in any HTML page. In any HTML page, including Angular or React, or even in a way that you can more efficiently use them in Angular or React, not plain as web components, but encapsulated as Angular UI components or React components. Okay, so with this, we can cover other web technologies and bring Fiori qualities, Horizon theme, accessibility, and so on, Fiori qualities to those technology stacks as well. So we have a bit more consistency, right? If you have solutions in Angular or React, they look like an S4 application. But still, it's either or, it's left or right. And the new logic, which is coming this year, we starting to roll this out and provide documentation and tutorials and so on, is that you can use the web components also in SAP UI5. So it's actually not a big thing when using this. So if you're an application developer and you create your freestyle UI5 application, you would use your SAP UI5 control. With this logic here, just like you use in UI5 control, you can also use a web components, and I'll show you how this works. And this means there's a single strategic layer or technology to develop UI elements in SAP, which can be used anywhere in SAP UI5 or in other technologies like Angular React. So SAP UI5 will continue, SAP UI5 controls will continue, the programming model continues, there's no change to that, but new UI elements, or most of the new UI elements, we plan to develop as web components. You can use in any technology. This is the news. For example, we're providing UI components for AI. Surprise, lots of stuff is happening in SAP for AI. For example, the prompt input, what we call AI prompt input, to put in prompts for Gen AI, which has certain capabilities. You can get an impression here. This is not available as UI5 control, but available as web component, which can be used in UI5 or in Angular or in React or in any other web technology. And this is the model we are using going forward. So assuming you have your SAP UI5 freestyle app, you have XML view layout here with some UI5 controls, and you can use a web components just like a UI5 control here. So the new AI prompt input you could put in here to your regular SAP UI5 application and continue with it. So the web components are the strategic layer for UI elements going forward. And I have a very short video to show you. This basically says what I just mentioned, that this is the strategic layer going forward. And here, just a quick video on how this looks like. There's a sample application here. If you open the sample application, it's just a list of to-dos, and we want to add the rich text editor to this. So in the application view, we add a namespace here for the rich text editor, and right between the UI5 controls, we add the rich text editor web component. And then we have the rich text editor here at the top. So you see a single web component, the rich text editor at the top, mixed right in between UI5 controls, which you can see at the very top and at the very bottom. So very easy to do this, no change in technologies here. So to summarize this section here, so with the integration of web components into SAP UI5, we completed the evolution of UI elements by bringing those two together. We offer strong web components. Maybe, whoops, sorry. This implementation, maybe I should just show you the page. So the basis is the open source UI5 web components, which is then the core centerpiece of the SAP web components. And if you look at what we have already now, maybe you can see the scroll by here, so you get an impression of how many. I think it's about 100 so far. Simple ones like a button, cards, checkbox, but also complex ones like there's a table here with lots of table functionalities, and somewhere there's a Fiori specific web components, and there's AI. You see the AI components, and a lot of things are already available. Good. And of course, they have proven qualities and cover all different frameworks, as I just explained. And just to highlight this again, SAP UI5 is the standard framework for applications. And if you want to cover other applications like Angular or React, you can use the web components here. And a bit of summary here, and what you can take away is that with the web components, we can focus on a single UI technology and use that in all different frameworks, programming frameworks, such as SAP UI5 and others. Doras, this is the second poll. Maybe you can share your concerns with SAP UI technologies. So we've talked a bit about SAP UI5, Fiori elements, covering Angular or React. And from the first poll, we've seen that this is a topic for you. Could you just give me in few words your concerns you have if you think of SAP's UI technology? I mean,
Oliver, while the people are typing in or answering the poll, there's a couple of questions that have come in. If you wanted to take this opportunity to answer them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So one is from Murti. Do you have a drag and drop functionality for UI5 and Fiori elements?
We have drag and drop, for example, for key users, and I will show that in a few minutes. So this is UI adaptation for different personas. We have. If you're asking for the developer, I think there's also in Business Application Studio, we still have the, I think it's called Layout Editor, which we had in Web IDE before. And if I'm right, this is also available in the Business Application Studio. So you can, as a developer, you can use drag and drop with the UI5 controls. But if you're asking about adapting standard applications, there is drag and drop, and I'll show that and demo that in a couple of minutes.
Okay, and another one from Anonymous. Do we develop SAP web components in BAS or ADT?
It's in ADT, let me say this, ADT is the ABAP development tools in Eclipse. This is for ABAP. Everything else is in BAS, in build code. All right, so this maybe clarifies. So everything ABAP is in ADT and Eclipse. Everything else, for example, UI, for example, cloud, everything else is in Business Application Studio in build code, as I'll explain in a few minutes.
Okay, and that was from Sumita. And the next question from Ali. What does it bring when we use web components within UI5? Why would we use it over a standard UI5 control?
If there is a standard UI5 control, and as I mentioned, there's hundreds of them, then you're fine to use that. Going forward, we put our focus on a single technology, the web components, which can be used in any framework, right? So for example, the AI prompt input is only available as web component with a benefit. It has the same qualities, but the benefit is that you can use them in SAP UI5, in Angular, in React, in Svelte, and in everything else. But you can use both. You're free to use both.
Okay, great. Awesome. Guys, keep your questions coming. So I'll end the poll now and share the results. I don't know if you guys, if you can see it, Oliver?
I can only see that 100% answered, but I cannot see the answers.
It says, so there's the majority have said components. There should be a place where it says you can view the details, but the components, some said Fiori web use version, want it flexible, program migrated, moving program available issues.
It's migrating from somewhere.
Yep.
So let me know, as I can't see the replies, Thor. Let me know if there's anything you think I should
Let me just do a quick
answer,
share.
sort of, but or any. Yeah.
Here, I'll share my screen so you can get to see it. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are 4 people that have said component, 4 apps, 4 Fiori, 3 web, 3 keeping, 2 developers, 1 migrated.
Yeah, so at least 2 are on documentation, so I can maybe take that. One is on flexible programming model and on documentation for new developers. I mean, we have the UI5 demo kit. If you look at ui5.sap.com, there's several tutorials in there, but I think it's still can be improved.
Okay.
Technology is moving so quickly, keeping up to speed. Yes, I'm doing my best in trying to roll this out in the various channels, but I know what you're saying. We still need to streamline this a bit to have the news covered in a better way. Where is the library of web components? This is the page I just showed you. So the basic set is the UI5 web components. So it's an open source repository on GitHub. You can Google that, or I think there's a last slide with a couple of links. Will it be phased out quickly like WebDim Pro? Not sure what is phased out. So definitely SAP UI5 will not be phased out. Web components not phased out. Too many UI components. Yes, that is true. And I can tell you we have an extensive process implemented. I can share that within SAP, when developing these SAP web components, we have an inner source process. So there's the central team, central design team, and central UI technology team. This is the UI5 team. And they are providing the bread and butter controls, like the standard controls everyone needs. But then if there's some application which have specific requirements and they just need yet another control for their special whatever business logic, then they can use an inner source process to contribute their design specifications to the central design, and also an inner source process for implementation. So they can contribute their implementation and extend the standard controls. So we put in some effort within SAP to not let it go out of hands, the number of controls. But then it's requirements from many applications here in SAP. No issues. Okay, Taurus, let's continue. No issues. I like that. Let's continue.
Guys, keep your questions coming. I do see a question from Asif, so we'll get to your question momentarily. Go ahead, Oliver.
Okay, so that was about the UI technology. Now let's talk about development tools. Let's talk about development tools and then extensibility as the last topic. So development tools, you certainly have heard of SAP Build, which is our tool, our platform for application development and automation solution. And here we see, and that is specifically interesting for developing with UI5, we see low code and pro code, and of course, Gen AI. The low code and pro code, I'm not sure, we have sometimes discussions here in product management and with marketing colleagues whether these terms really are well known and help when rolling out our message. Basically, pro code is when you work in code, you see different lines of code, and low code is some kind of editor which in the background would create some code. So SAP Build is this platform. And now what is different? And you have mentioned the Business Application Studio. Maybe you have used the Web IDE before or some other editor. So what is different? With SAP Build, we have a unified lobby. This means a single entry point for different solutions. And maybe I can just quickly show that. Is this still alive, this session? Let me just refresh that. Yes, this is the lobby of SAP Build, the entry point of SAP Build. And the main news basically is that it lists a number of projects here, and you can collaborate with other members here on the same project, have different versions and many options. But it is a single list of different applications. So I just have one here. This is the Fiori application I developed in Business Application Studio. But then you can also create other projects. So if I click on create, you can see that from here, you can not only create UI applications and different applications, also mobile applications, but also process automation or business sites, which is the work zone product for entry pages, such as the Fiori Launchpad. So things combined in this lobby, combined in the SAP Build product. And let me now click on this application here. It's you might recognize this is SAP Build code, specifically the Business Application Studio launching here, because the project I created earlier is a pro code project, is an SAP UI5 application. And now one thing, I'm not going to all the different functionality. You guess that you have here the folders and files and the view, your logic of UI5 views and controllers and so on. But I want to highlight one aspect here. You can see this storyboard. And even for this very simple project, well, it's not giving great benefits, but I'm trying to explain the idea. This is a visual overview of the application. It's a freestyle UI5 application, not really having any interesting logic, but you have editors here for visually working on this project. For example, adding data sources. You have visual editors to access or data service connected to BTP via the BTP destination. Or you can model your own CDS model, like a graphical data model with entities, attributes and relationships, foreign key relationships, and things like that. and a CAP application, and other. There's more options here as shown at the moment. So visual tools to visually create applications, create data models, and so on. And what happens in the background is that the real data is created. For example, this freestyle UI5 application, this in the background, then you'll see there's a XML view and there's a controller here in JavaScript and so on. And so what the visual editors create is not some kind of secret meta language which represents the application, but it's the real normal code, in this case UI5 code. And this is just like the flexible programming model. I think this is the strength. You have both options. So if you're a person who wants to use visual editors, there was one of you asking about the drag and drop editor. If you're like using visual editors and you benefit from them, you're more efficient by using these visual editors, then you're free to use them. If those visual editors are not sufficient, they limit you in some way, you want to go flexible, you want to go freestyle, you can always go, sure, what's the English word? Go behind the scenes, open here on the left, open the file explorer and open the controllers. And then here you go and put in your JavaScript coding, right? And then what you change here is reflected in the visual editor. So the visual editor don't create secret hidden code you must not change, but it's the real normal code. And you can go back and forth between code here, code first, pro code, whatever you call it, and the visual editors. And I think this is a strength. You can use as much visual editors as possible because they make you more efficient as a developer, but as much freestyle, as much code, you can use the CDS code here and the annotations and everything, as much of this as you need to be as flexible as needed. So that's on very high level, the idea of SAP Build. What is SAP Build? The whole thing here, you see the build work zone for launchpads at the top, the process automation. I just want to highlight the top left. So it's low code application building. So with the Build Apps product, the former AppGyver, and the Build Code. This is the Business Application Studio. And since roughly half a year, it also includes the ABAP environment, the embedded ABAP environment in S4HANA, and the Steampunk ABAP environment embedded in BTP. So that is included. And this says on the very left here, it says Fusion Team. I mean, this is a bit of a marketing term, but what it actually brings together here, the SAP Build, in the sense of Fusion development, is backend and front end, right? It has data model and UI, for example, backend and front end together in SAP Build. Or it has pro code and low code together, as I showed you in Business Application Studio, and also Build Apps, of course, is the pure low code solution. And it also offers on-stack extensibility and side-by-side extensibility, and we'll come to that a bit later. So that comes together in SAP Build. And SAP Build, or specifically SAP Build Code, is not just some new technology on top of existing ones, but it includes proven technologies, the Business Application Studio, as we have seen this. But if you look at UI development, for example, the web components, Fiori Elements, UI5 is included. So if you go for Build Code or Build, you're, of course, continuing developing Fiori with SAP UI5, but with Build Code, then with additional functionalities, and some of them I highlighted here. And you see other capabilities, for example, also runtime capabilities. So you have one platform, the SAP Build platform, not just for design time developing, but also for runtime capabilities. I think I mentioned most of this. There's AI support, of course. I have a dedicated slide on that. And this is covering the different environments, the cloud application programming model. And we also have some integration with ABAP, so tool bridges where the ADT in Eclipse is called, so that at least there's some integration here. But you can see here also in the picture here a visual editor for the data model here with entities and attributes, like an ID is a UID, a name is a string, and the email address of a customer is a string, and foreign key relationships. And the textual representation is here. Of course, you cannot read, but this has both aspects. Okay, so let's go back to SAP UI5. Again, this is a documentation page. Why am I showing you a boring documentation page on best practices? We have that for SAP UI5. So this is in the UI5 demo kit, ui5.sap.com. What are the best practices to develop UI5 application? Now, the important aspect here is, you'll know with SAP UI5, we have the version 1 dot something, as you can see here, for always, right? It always was version 1 dot, or is version, I should say, 1 dot something. So there's no incompatibility. So if you go from one UI5 version to next, the application should work just in the same way. I know sometimes there's bugs and issues with that, but from the principle, it should work. And that means if all applications are upgrade compatible, that means there is a lot of call this deprecated also code, right? If we in the past came up with new APIs, new controls, for example, we often still have to keep the old ones just for compatibility reasons. So that means it's getting bigger and bigger, and we're somehow it's difficult to make progress with UI5 if we always need to be upgrade compatible, just like with any other software product. So this is why we want to push the best practices here, which basically say, don't use deprecated code, but go for the current logic, APIs, controls, and so on, because then your application is ready for the future. And we have also a tool which helps you, the UI5 linter. Linter is a static code analyst tool, also outside of the SAP context. And we have a UI5 linter. And I can quickly show you here this video. On the right, you see a UI5 application which has some problems. On the left, you see the linter is being launched, and it will give red error messages, 17 problems you see. And then we launch the linter again with the fix option to fix the issues. And the code changes on the right, and it's green and shows 0 problems. So this is a tool which you can use to check your code and fix your code, as you can see, with regards to the best practices, because that will update your code so that you don't have legacy deprecated code and that your application is ready for the future.
Oliver,
would
you be able to share those links in the chat? Some people are asking for those specific links.
Of course, I have the most important links I have on my last slides, and I can share these, of course, in the chat. Probably I'll do this best after my presentation, because otherwise I need to stop sharing. But I'll put some of the important ones in the chat, of course.
Sure.
So there's Gen AI, of course. I just put a few links here to blog posts where you can find more details. For example, Joule, SAP's Gen AI assistant, helping you to move your application to TypeScript. TypeScript is introducing types to JavaScript. So that also helps when you're developing JavaScript, and Joule can help you to move. So check out these links here. Again, I have a short video. You see an application here which is using JavaScript, and you see on the left now Joule changing the project setup to TypeScript, and then changing the controller you see on the right here to TypeScript, and changing that. So this is helping to have the types which help you, for example, for code completion, for syntax checking at design time. And you can see what was changed towards TypeScript. And this is what Joule is doing. And just a frequent question is, can I use also ChatGPT? Of course, if you use ChatGPT, this can also do UI5 and has some UI5 knowledge. I just want to highlight the capabilities here. They have some built-in logic or cleverness. For example, if you ask Joule for a UI5 view to create a model or add a column to a UI5 table or explain some code segments and so on, there is some built-in logic. For example, maybe the Gen AI is being asked which files are needed to reply to this prompt. And then in a second request to Gen AI, these files are sent to Gen AI so it can work on this, right? So this is improving the results, and there's a lot of effort going into this logic here to improve this with some special logic. It's not just plain calling ChatGPT. Okay. And we want to extend this so that Joule can not only do basic UI5 things and, for example, moving to TypeScript, but we're aiming for an integrated AI-supported tooling to check and move forward an existing application with regards to the best practices, for example, with regards to TypeScript and other aspects. So we are working on this to have really not individual small tools, but an integrated tool to, let's say, future-proof your application. Okay, as a last topic, let's cover extensions. I'm sure you know extensibility is a problem. In the past, in ABAP, for example, you might have used bodies to add your custom code. And in UI5, we also have the extension points and controller hooks. But to use that, you need to have a predefined extension point in the application. And not just in one application, but also in the next application. And in every application, have consistent predefined extension points. And that was not always the case, and in the wrong place. And some SAP developer had to foresee that you maybe want to extend here in the coding and put this in. So this was always a challenge, and safeguarding your investments in extensions was a challenge. So with SAP UI5 flexibility, we made a big step forward here. And the logic we implement here can be used by end users, key users, and developers. And this is what I mentioned earlier. End users will do some kind of personalization of applications. Developers are using Build, are using a business application studio to add custom code. And even key users can change applications for many end users. And let me quickly show you, and I mentioned this before, you can play around with this on your own. So if you're going to ui5.sap.com, there's demo apps here. Let me make the font a bit bigger. There's demo apps, and there's a section SAP UI5 flexibility demo apps. For example, for key user adaptation. And if I open that, it shows me an application, a list of products, and some details. Now, assume I am a key user. I have a certain technical understanding, but I'm not developing. I don't want to create an IT project, set up an IT with the IT department to do some custom development. I want to do it on my own. I know how the end users work. I know I want to change this standard application for my team, for all the salespeople, for all the product maintenance people, for example. So I know how they work most efficiently, so I can adapt the UI here. As you can see, I have the authorization to do this. And you can see my mouse pointer changes. It's a drag and drop pointer. And maybe I know my end users, they need the description. This is most important for them. So I can move this to the top. But they use a different terminology. They don't call it description. I know they call it, I don't know, very imaginative. They call it text, right? So this is what they understand. And they don't use the rating. The screen is too complex for them. Let me remove this field here, and the screen is much simpler. So I can do these changes. It has more functionality here. Just for simplicity, I keep it short. I can activate this, even assign it to business roles, assign the changes to business roles, and then my end users see this tailored screen so they can work more efficiently without having to go into coding. Of course, if there's a much more serious extension needed, then you can do the code changes as I highlighted here. So, and this has it's very efficient to use this UI5 flexibility in the various tools, low code or pro code, as I mentioned, because the changes here are stored in a clever way. Let's assume you have an SAP standard app. You don't want to copy that. You don't want to modify that. You want to keep this untouched. But you might want to add developer changes to it. I haven't shown you this. This is similar changes you do in code-based, right, in Business Application Studio. And they are stored as deltas. Just the code which changes is applied on top, but the rest of the standard app is kept untouched. And then the key user changes I just showed you, they are applied on top of the developer changes. And maybe one of the end users has done some personalization. This is applied on top of that. And all of this is the application at runtime. And the benefit of this is if the SAP standard app updates, if you do an upgrade to a new version, it still works because all the deltas, your adaptations are stored separately in a way that it still works with the standard app. So SAP UI5 flexibility introduces a much safer environment for extensions, much more improved, and there's no predefined extension points needed. So you can do this anywhere just because it's UI5. No predefined extension point in each and every application needed. I think this is a big step forward as far as I can tell from my experience. Thomas, I have the last question. Are there any pain points when extending standard apps?
Number 3. There we go.
Almost at the end of my presentation, just very few slides, but
okay. So if you guys, while we're waiting for people to respond to the poll, I do see a question from Swapna. Where can we find flexible programming model documentation, which you've shared with us? So I guess that's she's asking for the link. If you guys have any additional questions, please do type your questions in the chat. I have put in the chat some links where you can links to the Learning Hub where you can get some additional courses, an online material. And as Mauricio mentioned in the beginning, I've also put the link to the Discovery Center, which you can find a lot of great missions there, even some SAP UI5 missions. And if you have some audio questions, please use the emoji to indicate you'd like me to unmute you and for you to ask your questions. I do have 5 ebooks to give away for those who ask some audio questions. I don't see any new questions in the chat. Now I only see 1 person, 2 people.
So I'll share a few links. Try to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I share them with Toros so he can distribute them. If anything is missing, I'm happy to follow up.
So just while people are responding, Oliver, so what in your opinion are the top tips you can provide to our participants here for building a performant SAP UI5 app?
So for performance, we have a very good, again, it's documentation, but it's really good documentation, and we even get positive feedback for that. So I do recommend that. If you go to the demo kit documentation, we've seen before where the best practices are. And if you filter that for performance, you have a performance checklist, which is very good. You have a guide on how to analyze performance. And you also have a guide how to implement performance UI5 freestyle coding. So go to the demo kit, ui5.sap.com, and in the documentation, filter the topics for performance, and you will see really good documentation.
Okay. So I do see only 6 people. We'll just, because we are running out of time, so we can just end the poll and
should I proceed?
Yeah,
Or,
go ahead.
Okay, so it's I'm almost done. So the adaptation project, so that's the developer extensions I mentioned. So when you're creating custom extensions, there's a new adaptation editor in Business Application Studio, which is consistent experience. It's also available in VS Code. If that is a topic for you and you wondered what are extension projects versus adaptation projects, I linked a blog post here. So extension projects are basically the old version using predefined extension points, and adaptation projects are the improved version of doing adding custom code using UI5 flexibility, for example. And this is explained here. So you have also a visual editor in Business Application Studio, and you can add, for example, XML, custom XML, and then put your custom button to the standard application with this logic of the different layers I mentioned before. And for example, also a new feature available right now for S/4HANA Public Cloud, and soon also for other editions, is that right from a running Fiori application, you can launch extension functionality. So you're not entering Business Application Studio and need to find out what's the Fiori ID of the specific application I want to extend. But right from the running application, a developer can select create extension and then either add a custom field, custom logic, process, or the UI extensions I mentioned below. So just as a more efficient starting point. And then zooming out, again, I mentioned, I think the on-stack and side-by-side extensibility at the beginning, just to connect the dots here. So we have, for example, the S/4HANA system here, it's S/4HANA Cloud, but if you look at UI5, also other editions, even ECC, are covered in the same way. So you can extend standard applications with the technologies I mentioned, or of course, creating custom applications. this is running on stack in the S4 system, like the key user changes I showed you, they are of course running in the same system, right, on the standard application. Or if your requirement to do some extension is less coupled with S4, and you want to run this side by side on BTP, you have, of course, the same technologies. You have SAP Build with Build Code with UI5 and CAP, for example, to develop an application which sort of is loosely coupled with an S4HANA. And a couple of links. For example, you see the link on the flexible programming model is here. The UI5 linter, I think one of you is also linked here on ui5sap.com on the tools page. You see the flexibility and 2 tutorials. So if you're interested in key user adaptation or developer adaptation with UI5 flexibility, I can recommend these tutorials. These are really deep, long tutorials to learn about this. And just 2 more tiny details in case you're still using the Belize theme. This will be removed, small information. And in case you want to be notified from the UI5 team about updates. So this is not marketing, blah, blah. This is from the UI5 development teams, for example. If a version on the cloud is being removed and things like that, then you can register to a mailing list here in case that is interesting for you. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'll stop sharing. So
Yeah.
hand it back to Toros.
Okay. Thank you so much. So please do keep your questions coming. We're just going to jump to our next presenter, but Oliver will be on hand if you guys want to stick around to ask some more questions. So I just want to hand it over to Trinath. I think he's got a quick 5-10 minute, just a couple of use cases around SAP UI5, and then we'll jump back to Oliver and your questions. Trinath?
Yes.
And we will be posting the links in the chat very shortly. Go ahead.
Can I just confirm if you are able to see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So hi everyone, thanks Oliver for the great presentation. I think it definitely refreshes a lot of the folks UFM knowledge as well, and some of the advancements that are coming in our way and the innovation that is coming in, mainly leveraging some of the extensibilities, some of the AI related topics, etc. So thank you very much. And then, so my topic, probably what I'll do today, I'll try to squeeze it short because we just have maybe like 5-10 minutes. So I wanted to show some of the use cases that MyGo has been doing or have done for some of the customers, right, in achieving their business requirements. Obviously, leveraging the SAP UI5 technology. Most of it is in the use cases that I'm going to go through. A couple of them are leveraging the freestyle application build, and then one is using some of the standard Fiori floor plan. So I'm going to quickly cover both of them so that you kind of have an idea on when to probably choose. And there was one question as to when to choose what. So real quick, this is again the process flow for the application that we worked on. This is an invoicing tool which we developed on BTP. We have this is the use case, right? Like we get the paper and e-commerce invoices and then into SAP, and then we have developed an application on BTP in order to have list all of those invoices and get them approved. Have some kind of exchange across different users if there's any questions, etc., and have some third-party integrations to get the documents. So this is the process flow. Basically, I would say this is simple integration between SAP and then third-party and BTP. So now from the approach, what we've used, one thing which I want to highlight, I think you might have already seen this a number of times, but one thing which I want to highlight is the design part. Again, there was several discussions as to what theme or what floor plan we have to use. So after several discussions, I think we have decided to use the freestyle layout in order to achieve the business requirements. So this is where we try to propose the list, we try to propose work list, but the business was not convinced with that. So we ended up using the freestyle. So one thing which I want to iterate regarding design is, obviously you will this is, I would say, this is a mandatory step for most of the complex applications that we're doing, because it gives some of the improved UX capabilities, and then it drives also business efficiency, right? And it supports consistency, and finally aligns with some of the Fiori design principles and guidelines. So it's important to have a design. So I mean, I would recommend anybody kind of getting with the new applications, have a design studio or a design session conducted, and then arrive to a kind of a prototype, so that it's much aligned with the business, and then you have it ahead of the time as to what's coming next. So next slide. I'll probably go through the solution walkthrough, right? If I have to just summarize, we have multiple pages, multiple invoice approvals coming in. So this is on the right hand side, you see the screenshot, right? Like, we have different sections, my items, workflow, admin, test groups, etc. This is all, kind of a dummy data just for the sake of this presentation. We've mocked up some of the data. But this is essentially the layout how you see. In this, you have approvals, rejections, like a page for approvals and rejections of all the invoices. Then you have user group handling. Then you also have real-time invoice status, where you can see it. You have a reporting admin. Reporting admin is nothing where you can refresh your invoice status, or if you want to report something to the other user, you could report that. So this is what it is. It has multiple functionalities. Groups is something where you can assign people to your different groups. So let's say most of the businesses who use SAP are complex, so there are multiple business units. If you want to group certain people together to different groups, you use this concept. So and then, so this is the screen, right, that we have done. We have used, I think, with the Belize theme again. We have used the list of put concept. This is all freestyle UX development that we have done. I'm going to go run a video for like 2 minutes, and then you can see how that application is developed right after this. So that is this, and then I will also run a demo, but I'll also try to cover, in the interest of time, the other two applications before that, so that, and then probably I'll share the video. So this is another one that we have developed, right? This is like a list report that we have done. This is a workflow application, again, using the OpenUI5 concepts. So, and then on the right-hand side, you see, this is the first screen that we show in the application. On the right-hand side, this is the detailed view that you go. You also have this where you can enter all the details. Probably, I think I've used the jumble one. Okay, maybe I took a wrong screenshot here, but this is again all the fields list. Is where you update it, and then this is also another UI5 development that we have done. So then another example, what I want to also bring up here is, this is we use the smart control table here. Again, this is a list report concept, leveraging the standard Fiori plans. There is a lot of several built-in validations. Again, as I think Oliver has showed, there are several validations. There are several options that you can do, like a sort. There is a lot of settings where you can customize layouts, etc. This is a simple, I would say, application that you can do. Like, let's say you want an inventory report. Let's say you want a purchase order report. You can leverage the standard floor plan and quickly develop this like as a header. And once you click on this, it navigates to your details page, like what you see on the left-hand page. So this is, pretty much all the floor plan is given. All you need to do is just, bring your OData service to show the data here. So with that, I will quickly again jump back to the previous application, what I've told, invoicing application. I will quickly run a demo. I mean, just for the sake of connectivity, etc., I had to take a video. So I'll just run the video over here. Let me share my whole screen. I'll just try to forward it a little bit sometimes, and then I'll just do a voiceover. So what we're doing here is, we have all the invoices listed here, and then we quickly approved one of the invoice here. So basically the idea is, you can do an approve, reject, and you can do forward, and do all of that stuff, right? And then this is the link that I was talking about, this arrow. When you click on it, you can get to the details. So here in this example, we were trying to reject and we are trying to approve one invoice. So this is the functionality that I want to show. And then again, as I've told, this is the freestyle layout that you have developed. We had to do all this built-in validations, right? Like sort, filter and all that. So that is this, and as I mentioned, right, left hand side, you can see multiple panes on the my items, workflow. These are different groups and items that are relating to each of the groups. And then as you click on different groups, you can navigate to the invoices pertaining to each group. Again, all these invoices are coming in from SAP. As I told, the first point of entry is from open invoice, and then we get into SAP. The moment we get an SAP, and then it needs an approval, we get here. Then we also have something like an advanced search. Just simply we can search the invoices based on vendors. That is what this is. And then you have also, so this is the vendor invoice number, but you give the vendor number, etc., and search these invoices. When you click on a certain invoice, you also get a page where you have this workflow of an invoice as to what is the different steps that a particular invoice has gone through. This is a multi-level approval flow. So this is all the different steps, and more like a graphical representation of a particular invoice. And then down below you see all the line items. And then this is another functionality in the same application, what I was talking about, the groups, where you can show a different group, and then you can find all the members that are assigned to the group. You can deactivate a group, you can reassign some other guys, you can delete a member, you can add a member. So as you see all the functionalities, again, all this data we try to create, and these groups, all these groups basically are used to approve different invoices pertaining to them. So this is how, again, you add a user ID to the group. And finally, once you add, they will get the ability based on their access to either view or approve or forward invoices. Sorry, but I might have browsed through a little fast, but I wanted to make sure I complete this in time as well. One thing what I would say, right, there are several other applications we have done using the SAP UI5 controls, all several freestyle applications based on the business requirement. So at any point of time, right, like either technical or functional or any business requirements that you have, any help that you need, you can always reach out. Toros has given the contacts in the chat as well. So obviously, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. Thank you, Taurus. I think that's it from my end.
Yep. Thank you so much, Srinath. So if you guys have any questions, please just raise your hand and I'll ask you to unmute your line. We've got a few. I know we're over our time, but if you guys are willing to stay on the call, and our presenters are willing to answer your questions. So if there's any questions, I don't see any new questions in the chat. I did put the links that were from Oliver's presentation as quickly as I could, but we will be sharing all of the presentations with you guys after the session is over. I don't see any other questions, so I do have 5 ebooks to give away, guys. So if you want to ask your question, now is the time. Okay, let me just do a quick share of my presentation. So again, I want to take this opportunity to thank Oliver for a great in-depth overview of the SAP UI5, and thank my colleague Srinath for his session and Mauricio for his opening words of welcome. And I want to take this opportunity, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Before you sign off, please don't forget to fill out this Mentimeter survey. I do have 10 ebooks there to give away for those who complete the survey. So there I'll be giving out testing SAP UI5 applications. And with that, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're located. And until next time, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.